Good evening, everyone, and happy Valentine's Day. Thanks for joining us on ABC 10 News Now. I'm Melanie Palmer. Tonight's top story. Today was day number 2 of Kelly Cochran's murder trial. The trial was delayed around 3 hours this morning. It's election night here in the Upper Peninsula and across the country. Polls close at 8 p.m. local time across the state. Many of the races, both locally and nationally, are too close to call at this hour. Voter turnout was heavy in most UP areas. A traffic stop Sunday afternoon resulted in the arrest of a 24-year-old Petoskey man on drug charges. The traffic stop occurred at approximately 3:45 p.m. in Ontonagon County. Cliffs Natural Resources has confirmed with ABC 10 that an employee at the Tilden mine was injured and taken to the hospital Sunday morning. According to Patricia Persico, Director of Global Communications for Cliffs, the accident happened at approximately 10:30. As the holiday shopping continues for many shoppers into December, there are some gifts that need to be thoughtfully prepared more than others. If you're deciding to give someone the surprise of a puppy, kitten, or any other kind of animal this season, there are some things that you need to keep in mind. As crowds of people gathered in downtown Marquette on Saturday night to ring in the new year, the Marquette Police Department was working diligently to ensure that all partygoers were safe during their celebrations. Compared to previous years, this year's celebration was fairly mild. And it's that time of year again, time for Lake Superior State University to continue its decade-long tradition of banishing this year's most overused, abused, and misused words from the English language. Last year, vape, manspreading, and so were among the words banished. The list will be released on December 31st, and if you have any suggestions of words or phrases that you think just need to disappear, you can visit our website, abc10up.com, and we do also have a poll going on right now on our Facebook page. It looks like the biggest one right now is Bay, which was actually banished last year.
You think about how much information, like if I were to give you some information about me,
yeah,
and then you went on live TV and just told everybody about it.
I could do that right now. I have the power.
I hope you don't.
Okay, coming up next tonight on ABC 10 News Now.
1-game lead on the Packers in the division. Next week, Lions will be at the Cowboys for Monday Night Football. The Packers will host the lowly Vikings. So
sounds great. Can you imagine being at a game that cold? Have you ever been to one of those?
I've never been to one of those, and I hope I never have to cover one like that.
You might not make it. Up next night on ABC 10 News Now. Victims can be anyone at any given time. A majority of the victims are adult females. January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and the best way to become aware is to get informed on how it's impacting your community. If you would like to send Allison a birthday card, the address is P.O. Box 1016 Hurontown in Houghton, Michigan, zip code 49931, just like here. Allison loves all kinds of cards, from Disney princesses to animals, and especially homemade ones. Allison's family is hoping to give this sweetheart the best birthday ever. The holiday season is by far the busiest season for United States Postal Service workers, and just like Santa's elves, they are working hard to get you your gifts right to your house on time. Well, November is the time for Americans to be hitting the polls, but here in the Upper Peninsula, hunters are hitting in different kinds of polls right here at Big Bonds, the only strip club in the Upper Peninsula. If you happen to be looking for a Sasquatch yourself, they communicate through wood-knocking sounds just like this. The street of Washington in downtown Marquette was packed today as anti-Trump protesters lined the sidewalk hoping to have their voices heard. Hard to pick all of them. For one soon-to-be 11-year-old girl, cards and pictures are everything.
That's one of them, and this is me, my sister, my 2 sisters.
Allison Peterson has loved receiving cards since she was just a couple years old. Now, with her 11th birthday coming up on April 28th, she has a goal of receiving 1,000 cards, this of which seems very achievable for Allison.
I don't keep track anymore. Almost 300.
The joy that these cards create for Allison is important. At only 6 months, she was diagnosed with a rare condition causing her to be in and out of the hospital very frequently. Allison was diagnosed with Kabuki syndrome type 2 at the age of 8, a disorder so rare that it only occurs in 1 in every 32,000 newborns.
When at school, it's not really fair because like other kids can run up the stairs, I really can't run up the stairs. It hurts really badly.
This syndrome causes developmental delays, behavioral issues, along with sensory problems, just to name a few, and is currently incurable.
My favorite one of all of them.
During Allison's time receiving medical treatment, that is when her love for collecting these cards began.
It was when I was in hospital a lot, and I was in and out of the hospital, and They kept giving me good morning cards.
Allison's dad would push her in a wagon around the hospital, and faculty would drop cards in the wagon for her. She loves to sort the cards and read them. These cards mean everything to her. And how did it feel getting these cards?
Happy.
Happy. Did it make you feel better?
Yeah.
Allison and her family have an upcoming trip to Florida through the Make-A-Wish Foundation. But before she goes, this optimistic, loving girl would love to receive more cards.
I want to save them, and I have a big box for my aunt that she made, and I helped her decorate it. It's really not decorated, but my grandma gave me a big dog on it.
If you would like to send Allison a birthday card, the address is P.O. Box 1016 here on town in Houghton, Michigan, zip code 49931, just like here. Allison loves all kinds of cards, from Disney princesses to animals, and especially homemade ones. Allison's family is hoping to give this sweetheart the best birthday ever. Melanie Palmer reporting for ABC 10 and CW5 in Houghton. Hunting season in the UP draws in hundreds of hunters each and every year. There's one UP hotspot that can consistently rely on rifle deer season drawing in the crowd. Well, November is the time for Americans to be hitting the polls. But here in the Upper Peninsula, hunters are hitting in different kinds of polls right here at Big Bonds, the only strip club in the Upper Peninsula.
Any other time of the year it is, we have steady flow, but this time of year it's a huge influx of customers and hunters, obviously, because camps are open and deer season is about to start. So it's a lot of activity, a lot of energy, a lot of happiness, a lot of guys looking to have some good times.
Hunters from all across the Midwest have been making stops at Big Bonds since the doors first opened in 1983. Hunting season is by far the busiest season at the club, bringing in thousands of dollars in additional revenue between the dates of November 15th and November 30th. The hunters aren't the only elated ones during these visits, but the additional income is also useful for the dancers.
Oh, it's probably the best season we have, by far. People come from everywhere to hunt. We get lots of people, lots of groups. Girls are great. We just have a blast.
Big Bonds continues to be the only exotic dance club in the Upper Peninsula because of the zoning permits that the original owner, Bonnie Storty, possessed that were grandfathered down to her niece. It was Bonnie's wish for her niece to continue the entertainment business after her passing.
We are the only name up in the UP, so a lot of people hear about us, and there's always going to be good and bad about whatever you hear, but we'd like to change the people's minds about this one, you know what I'm saying? We're a lot more classier than a lot of clubs that you see or hear about.
Over 20% of all business is accumulated during firearm deer season at Big Bonds. Incorporating social media into advertising for the business has also shown to increase customers and to draw in more hunters.
Before, they were getting pretty good on the Facebook page with likes and sharing and stuff. And then after we started with the advertisements, and especially with hunting season, their likes on the Facebook page really went up.
In regards to preparing the club for the highly sought-out time, a number of steps are taken to ensure the business is ready and maintaining their strict regulations. Over 20 security cameras have been installed in every room of the club. The place is cleaned up, and several featured dancers are brought from around the country every year as well. Having a local business such as Big Bonds drawing in an immense amount of hunters leaves a footprint on the community. Other local businesses around the area also benefit from customers who are making stops before heading or leaving Big Bonds.
Oh, our tips are great. Just even the people, we just get so many different ones that aren't from around here. Because we get lots of people every week that are here weekly, regulars. It's nice to see new faces, new everything, the stories we hear.
With business nearly tripling during hunting season, this makes Big Bonds the place to be. I'm Melanie Palmer reporting for ABC 10 and CW5 in Rock, Michigan.
If you don't hear about it on the television or you don't read about it in the newspaper to the general public, it doesn't happen. But when you're in law enforcement, you hear about it all the time. It is a very real thing, and it is affecting our communities, especially in the Upper Peninsula.
It is something that is not publicly discussed, but negatively impacting communities at an excessive rate across the Upper Peninsula. Victims can be anyone at any given time. A majority of the victims are adult females. January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and the best way to become aware is to get informed on how it's impacting your community.
With human trafficking, you have to have three things. You have to have force, fraud, or coercion in order for it to be human trafficking. And it involves the movement of a person over, transportation, recruiting, transferring and harboring a person.
Over 60% of victims were tricked into the trafficking system by someone they know, and 35% of the time that person is a family member. Human traffickers, also known as Johns, typically target young women who have ran away from home.
Almost 100% of women and girls who are being trafficked or who are maybe prostituting themselves are victims of child sexual abuse. A lot of times their girls are running away from home because they're being sexually abused at home or because other abuse or neglect is happening. So that's how they get caught up in it. Pimps and traffickers prey on young girls who are runaways. They go to the places where runaways hang out. Within 24 hours, if a girl runs away, she's approached by a trafficker.
These traffickers typically lure in their victims by flattering them and convincing them of wanting a romantic relationship. Although human trafficking cannot always be physically seen in the UP, it is here. In 2013, a Dickinson County man was charged with human trafficking or forced labor of minors in the area. Jonathan Vivian is now serving time in the Marquette Branch prison for his crimes. Due to the ambiguity of the situation, law enforcement officials need to keep their eyes peeled for any clue that could lead to a potential human trafficking case.
It's a lot more common than people realize. It's very clandestine by nature. You have people that come into town that may be here for a while and you're not aware that they're involved in human trafficking. So it's one of those things that really kind of flies under the radar.
With media outlets such as Snapchat and Facebook being accessible to almost anyone of any age, suspects have easy access to finding victims.
Because you can meet anyone online and any stranger can request to add you as a friend on Facebook, a lot of these young girls who are being abused at home or are looking for an escape from whatever's happening in their lives or looking for attention maybe, will allow these men to be their friends on Facebook and Snapchat. And a lot of, from what I've seen in the girls I've worked with, a really large percentage of them met their traffickers online or on the street when they ran away.
In addition to social media sites, frequently visited websites have also had advertisements for trafficking victims, displaying the women like an object on sale. Human trafficking cases can increase in the UP when the number of outside visitors becomes higher.
Maybe hunting season or different holidays. So those kinds of things do increase. We, from time to time, find things on Backpage, the website, where there'll be somebody coming into town for a period of time, staying at certain motels and offering services.
Tomorrow night, we'll bring you the details on the signs of a human trafficking situation, services that are offered, and the action that needs to be taken in part 2 of the series. Melanie Palmer reporting for ABC 10 and CW5 in Iron Mountain.